Well, the first presidential primary of campaign 2016 is underway right now in New Hampshire. A record-breaking voter turnout is expected. Take a look at the traffic jam caused by voters heading to the polls in Merrimack, New Hampshire earlier today.
Many of the candidates crisscrossed the state today, especially those hoping for an upset against Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, who have led the polls in New Hampshire. Eyewitness News reporter Steve Nielsen is in the middle of all of it, live in Manchester now with the latest. Steve?
We wanted to get a sense of the whole area today, so we started in Portsmouth, drove around. We ended up here in downtown Manchester. We were talking to voters and also the presidential candidates vying for those votes. It's primary day in New Hampshire, and for these two Rhode Islanders, it means knocking on doors to get the vote out. Why come this distance to be here today?
I think this is one of the important elections in my lifetime.
You've been up here a couple days, or did you drive up this morning?
We drove up last night. We braved the storm and the weather, so it was a long drive, but it was worth it.
Lee and Joe say they got one person to vote for Hillary today who wasn't going to, so the knocks were worth it. Moving from Portsmouth to Manchester, voters walking along the main strip were treated to Bernie Sanders trucks and signs, even for cafes.
Came up with all of those.
What's your favorite one?
Oh, my favorite is probably the Blue American Century salad. It's a garden salad with walnuts, apples, and blue cheese crumbles, but Peel the Burn smoothie is definitely the most popular right now, so.
It's an experience being in New Hampshire on primary day, a mecca of candidates vying for the presidency, like when we spotted Senator Ted Cruz talking to people outside of a diner.
Enjoying it.
It's why Kate Kaiser made the trip from New Jersey to help her decide. Fun having access to a lot of different candidates.
Yes, and then being in the bars and talking to the behind-the-scenes people, you get all these little pieces of information that you don't get if you just sit back and watch it with remote control.
Yeah, there's definitely a feel and an energy out here. Just now that we're live, we're hearing people shout different campaign slogans at us and everything, trying to get their message out. It's impossible to go anywhere here, even on the highway, without seeing a sign supporting somebody. Shannon, Mike?
And Steve, based on the signs, the people you spoke with, are you getting a sense of who really has the most support out there today?
Absolutely Bernie Sanders. I mean, it's impossible to go anywhere without specifically seeing a Bernie Sanders sign, and there's a passionate crowd too. You saw just a brief video clip earlier of somebody wearing a Bernie Sanders hat out there. We saw the Bernie Sanders truck drive by earlier. He definitely has a huge support out here and a following. No surprise considering he's leading in the polls in New Hampshire. On the Republican side, though, it's more of a toss-up. You see just as many signs for seemingly all of the candidates, and we did, as you saw there, speak with Senator Ted Cruz. I'll bring you that interview coming up tonight on Eyewitness News live at 6. Back to you.
Now we turn to campaign 2016. It's primary day in New Hampshire. Voters have been hitting the polls since midnight. It's an important election in both the closely contested Democratic face-off and the crowded Republican race. And new at 6 tonight, we're catching up with the GOP winner in Iowa, Ted Cruz. Eyewitness News reporter Steve Nielsen joins us now live in Manchester, New Hampshire. Steve?
Well, Mike, one of the really great things about primary day in New Hampshire is the access that people have to the candidates. One of those key things is going to the diners. We always see that on television, the candidates walking around the diner shaking hands, and today we got to see that process firsthand. Outside the Red Arrow Diner is where bacon and eggs meet politics, a classic stomping ground for candidates on primary day. This crowd gathered as Ted Cruz left. Providence native Stephen Rodriguez is there in front asking the senator about the issues that matter to him.
Here in New Hampshire, it's really unique where you get to really meet all of the candidates face to face. You see them really as a person.
And then Cruz spoke with photojournalist Tyler Unwin and myself. What was the response like in there, Senator?
It was very positive. We are seeing a lot of enthusiasm and excitement on the ground, and it all comes down to turnout now. What I would say to the men and women in New Hampshire is that if you want a president who will repeal Obamacare, ask who has led the fight against Obamacare.
Downtown Manchester is alive with the talk of politics, and you don't need to go far to find a supporter of anyone. How many times have you guys shouted "Feel the Burn" this week?
Oh, a lot of times.
I ran into longtime Bernie supporter Audrey Blondin.
I'm known for my hats and my outfits, so I said couldn't pass up the opportunity. So
this is actually toned down from usual. So, Buddy's not coming up here?
Audrey was a lot of fun to talk to, and that really is something that's incredible about this place right now is the access to the candidates. Nearly every single person you've seen me talk to today has met at least one of the candidates. Most of them have met almost all of the candidates. I even spoke to someone who's met truly every single one of them and had the proof to show me. So it's pretty incredible out here. We'll send it back to you.
Steve, we've seen you've interviewed a lot of out-of-staters. How about people from New Hampshire? Have you spoken with them?
Yeah, well, you're right. I've talked to a lot of Rhode Islanders. I've talked to people from Connecticut, people from New Jersey that have made the trip out here. Not actually that many New Hampshire residents, though, which I think really speaks to kind of the wackiness that is primary day here in New Hampshire. So many people come from out of state to try to encourage people in state to go out and vote and support their candidates. And we've talked to a couple different business owners that have really said that that's true because these streets are just packed with people and they're going into the businesses, they're spending money here and taking part in what is primary day in New Hampshire. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Steve, thank you. Steve Nielsen reporting live from Manchester, New Hampshire. And you can count on Eyewitness News to bring you the results of today's New Hampshire primary. We'll have the final numbers after their tally tonight on Eyewitness News at 10 over on Fox Providence and 11 right here on WPRI 12.